Please introduce yourself with your name and age.
Hi, my name is Vera Ruiz, and I'm 18 years old.
Hi, I'm Patricia Siedemann, and I'm 18.
Maria Forero, 43 years old.
Hi, my name is Tao. I'm 18 years.
I am Joseph Kiss and I am 18.
Hi, my name is Lionel Heath. I am 62 years old.
Patricia, what languages do you speak?
I speak Filipino and English.
English and Spanish.
Mostly Vietnamese, but I also speak English at school.
I speak English, Spanish, and I understand French.
I speak French and English.
I speak English, obviously, Spanish pretty fluently, and Hungarian, which I just started learning like this year.
At what age did you start to learn your secondary language?
I officially started learning English when I was 6 years old.
I started learning it when I was 5 years old, when I was in kindergarten.
I started being interested in learning a little bit of French when I was about 5 or 6 because my grandmother was French and I wanted to be able to communicate with her.
I have studied English when I was 12.
My school was all English. The moment you got in the bus, you had to speak English. In recess, cafeteria, it was English. If you were caught speaking Spanish, you were suspended.
Why did you start learning Hungarian?
I wanted to really immerse myself in the culture because like Hungarian's so unique and like not a lot of people are Hungarian. So it's kind of nice to be like different. But the hard part about it was that nobody does really speak it. But I just wanted to immerse myself more.
Well, English was the mandatory subject that we have to take until college, so I didn't really have a choice. We need to learn.
What was the biggest hurdle you had to overcome when learning English? What was the hardest thing?
Speaking,
Speaking?
because I'm kind of quiet people,
Mm-hmm.
so usually I'm thinking more than speak.
Right.
And when people ask me something, I have to think. So
Yeah.
my mouth doesn't work, but it doesn't work a lot. So when I speak, it's kind of hard to understand.
I think, well, my vocabulary, today I think my vocabulary is still not very good, so I'm still learning. I still read a lot of books. But back then, I talked to a lot of people, like talked to my uncle who I'm comfortable with, like watch a lot of movies. I actually read the dictionary. Some people think it's weird, but I actually read it. Read a lot of books and just.
Um, you, the hardest part of learning to speak English was communicating and having conversations with other people.
Well, first of all, I didn't see my grandmother often enough to speak French with her, so that was very a difficult time to actually learn French. But once I got into high school, and I took 3 years of French in high school, and then I took 2 years of French in college. Though I wasn't a French major at that time, I was a history major. I think by going to Europe, I really became interested in learning the language, and it was very difficult because I was already so much older, and I wish I had been able to do it when I was younger.
How long did it take for your skills to become easy, conversational? Like, how long did it take till you were comfortable speaking English?
Well, I know English before I came here,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just good at reading and like writing.
Right.
So I think it took me for 6 months to understand what people say.
Right.
I'm guessing when I'm moving up to 8th grade. Yeah.
It took about, after I came here, it took about a year and a half or 2 years to finally dominate it.
I'm still working on it. I know like a couple sentences, like the basic stuff, like what's your name, like how you doing, stuff like that.
I think once I actually studied in Paris and was immersed in on a daily basis, my French really, I really learned French very quickly. I think here at the high school, it's pretty hard to learn French in 40 minutes a day as we go through grammar and other situations, just trying to learn the basics. But I think really once I was in France for the first year I studied, then I really picked it up quickly.
And now, how often do you speak Filipino now?
I still speak it every day when I get home.
Have you retained it well?
Yeah, but I don't really write and read in Filipino anymore. I just talk. So I don't think I'm very good at it. I don't think I'm very fluent in Filipino anymore. I think I'm more comfortable talking in English rather than Filipino.
So your English skills are now surpassed your Filipino skills, you think?
Yeah.
It's probably easier once I start speaking. Sometimes, believe it or not, it's harder in class because I'm not using it as much every day. And sometimes you do forget some words, especially at 62 years old. I can't always remember things in English. But I would say that, yeah, I've retained it pretty well.
I think you're truly bilingual when you can think in both languages. And I do that all the time because my husband doesn't speak Spanish, but I speak Spanish to my daughter.
Right.
So I just think in the language that I need to speak and I switch without a problem.
Okay, how often do you speak Hungarian now? Do you retain it well?
Yeah, I retain it well. We speak it every once in a while if it's like simple stuff like bye or like can I have some water and stuff like that. We'll say it in the house.
I speak it mostly just at home and in family reunions.
Do you retain it well? Is it still as good as you spoke it before?
Yeah, for the most part. Sometimes I forget certain words, but for the most part, I still.
What language do you think in? Like, do you think in one language over the other?
Well, when I'm speaking English, I think in English. When I speak Filipino, so I think it's.
You don't mentally translate like in.
No, I think it's just natural. It just comes out natural to me. If I speak English to an English-speaking person, I just think English, and vice versa.
So what about when you're not speaking, like in your head, when you're just thinking about things? Do you like think in Filipino the majority of the time, or you're thinking in English? Or has it changed since you got
I think
here?
it's just, I don't know, maybe, I think randomly, probably. When I don't know the word in English, I, think about it in Filipino.
If I'm speaking in English, if I'm speaking in Spanish, in Spanish. But I dream in both.
So you dream in both? That's cool.
Well, that happens to a lot of people when they start learning it at first. And I did translate it when I was first learning it, but after a while, it's just, once you're fluent in it, you don't do it anymore. You just think in English.
When you speak French, do you think in English and then translate to French, or do you think in French?
Well, I think it comes naturally depending on the situations because I did live in France, with the restaurants for 10 years. So sometimes when, especially if I'm in front of the class and I'm saying something and I look and somebody, let's say, for example, Jeanette Bender looks at me in a puzzled look, or maybe Rochelle Bender, or maybe even Peter Bender now, they'll look at me in a puzzled look, but whatever I say and I think about it and I translate it from English to French, it makes perfect sense. So sometimes I come out with some things that kind of sound a little bit weird, but there I am translating actually from French to English unconsciously, and sometimes it's the other way around. When I speak French, I'm translating unconsciously from English to French. For example, I come home and I say, I'm going to pass the vacuum cleaner. And what do you mean pass the vacuum cleaner? Because in French, it's passer l'aspirateur. But in English, it would be I'm going to vacuum. So that's just a very small little, part of translation, I guess.
What's the biggest help that you had when speaking Hungarian?
Talking to my grandma. My grandma, she came right off the boat from Hungary. And I think she left during the Hungarian Revolution, so she still had a lot in her, but she didn't want to teach my dad because he didn't want him to have the accent and have like life harder for him. So he still has an English accent, but she like still retains it all and stuff like that.
What helped me the most was having people around me, like my family, that spoke English as well as Spanish, and they helped me.
I'm interested in science,
Mhm.
so most of the stuff in science they don't have Vietnamese. They don't have in Vietnamese. So learning English,
Mhm.
I can learn more about science.
All right. And do you have any advice for anyone trying to learn another language?
Be patient. Yep, and make sure you pronounce everything correctly because pronunciation is everything.
Study a lot.
Study a lot.
Do not rely on Mr. Google. People will be patient when you're learning. They will correct you, and you should appreciate that because once you learn that mistake, you won't make it again. Try to watch TV on the language that you're trying to learn. Listening all the time to music and things like that will educate your ear. And try not to cheat because it's very easy to revert to English. Everyone speaks English. So it's very easy if you travel to France or you travel somewhere where they speak French for you to revert to English. So try even if it hurts.
And do you have advice for anyone trying to learn another language?
Oui, je pense qu'il faut commencer à parler français très tôt parce que après 13 ans, c'est très difficile et puis on est obligé de faire beaucoup de mémorisation par cœur qui est très difficile. Alors il faut toujours commencer vers 5 ou 6 ans.
Sa totoo lang, komunikasyon ang pinakamagandang paraan, maayos na paraan para matuto. Kahit na aralin mo ang isang wika sa paaralan at hindi mo naman ito inaayon araw-araw, hindi ka talaga matututo, mahihirapan ka. Kaya siguro ang pinakamagandang paraan ay makipag-usap ka sa isang tao na marunong magsalita nito o kaya pumunta ka sa bansang gusto mong pupuntahan at aralin mo ang wika nila, panigurado pagbalik mo ng Amerika, magaling ka naman.
Espero que seas muy exitosa y que aprendas mucho de tu idioma que te gusta para que en el futuro encuentres muchos trabajos con más de un idioma. Suerte.
Lo más importante para poder dominar un idioma diferente es esforzarse y practicar todos los días, escuchando a otras personas y tener conversaciones con personas que hablan el idioma.
And said it like you slept.
That's it?
Yep. That's
All
it.
right, cool.